Hey everyone, I'm Angie Miller. I'm an NASM Master Instructor and an AFAA Mentor. I also produce Angie's Tips, which are videos that are produced on the AFAA blog to enhance instructor teaching. And I'm so happy to be here this Friday for our Friday AFAA Live. I have an amazing, super relevant topic about how to go virtual with your group fitness team. And I have a perfect expert today. Her name is Nicole Golden, and she owns FWF Wellness. And Nicole is going to show us all the way on how to go virtual with our group fitness. But let me go ahead and introduce you to Nicole. How you doing, Nicole?
Great. How are you doing today, Angie?
I am doing awesome. Did I miss anything about you that you'd like us to know?
I guess not a whole lot. I own FWF. I'm the mom of 5 kiddos, including a set of quadruplets, but that's a topic for another day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's something I did not know about you. As if I wasn't already in awe and smitten by you, I really am now, Nicole. So our topic today is going virtual with our group fitness community. And I reached out to some experts in the field and I said, who should I talk to? And I got Nicole's name because apparently when COVID hit, Nicole was quick to respond and she really turned her fitness studio into an online virtual community to meet the masses. So my first question for you, Nicole, is how did you do that? How did you immediately respond to COVID and turn what you do live into a whole virtual platform?
Well, I knew that the demand was still there. And honestly, my clients' needs drive what I do. And I knew that we had a lot of clients that depend on us for their mental health, for their well-being. And we knew that we had to be there for them during this time. I knew about Zoom meeting from my prior job in education, and I knew that it was a possibility to do live classes on Zoom. I did hear of some other formats coming out that allow classes to go live. We actually tried one of them and it was a big catastrophic failure. So it really was a lot of troubleshooting and just every class that we normally would do. And with an awesome, really cooperative instructor team, we just kept trying it. We tried different platforms. We tried Zoom finally was the one that we were able to get to work. Now, I will tell you, the technology didn't always work out for us wonderfully, but we are at a point after about a month or so, I guess, what are we, 6 weeks now in? Probably, yeah, 6 weeks since we had to close live classes. We're at a place now we have pretty good audio visual quality, but really it was just that we knew that we couldn't leave our clients hanging. We had to provide them with something, which was the driving force behind all of it.
Well, and I love that because I teach at gyms and they haven't gone live into this whole platform. And so I love that you were able to take your gym and really, really bring it to life for your community. And that's such a key integral part is you own a gym. And so you have a connected community, not just of instructors, but of people who want to see your instructors and who want to come take your classes. And like you said, they depend on you for their physical and their emotional well-being. So I'm curious, from the time that, we were all told to shelter in place to the time that you went live, how long did it take?
24 hours until we made our first attempt. We actually missed 0 classes. We immediately put everything online the next day, literally the next day. So we didn't miss a class.
Oh my gosh. And so you said you were familiar with Zoom because of the teaching space, but was that something that you guys have tried before where you've gone online, or was that just something that you were just one of those quickly responsive people because you have 5 kids and you know how to respond?
Well, part of it is that I am pretty resourceful. We had actually thought about the idea because a couple of clients and instructors told us that during, snowstorms or, bad weather, they still wanted to do their classes. So about a year ago, we started talking about the idea of adding online classes, but we didn't feel the technology was really there yet. And we had a couple of issues with Zoom, with audio visual quality. So we had abandoned the idea at the time. But as soon as we were put in a situation where we had to do it, we responded immediately. And my facility manager, Rachel, and I sat one day on a Chromebook, a very cheap Chromebook, and tried to figure out between our iPhone and a tablet and the Chromebook whether we could actually broadcast these classes online. The next day, we had 17 people sign up for a class, and it was a catastrophic failure, but we made sure that they got something. Actually, funny story, it was such a catastrophic failure that we repeated the class again to see if we could get it to work. So we did the class twice.
So I'm kind of curious, what was the catastrophic failure? What went wrong besides everything, right?
Yeah, besides everything. So this was before we used Zoom. There's a couple of new platforms coming out. I think Burnalong is one of them. Vertio is another one. There's a few of them, but their technology wasn't quite ready yet. So we tried to use theirs, and half the people couldn't sign on. They were booted off. Some people had great quality, and some people sounded like we were in a fishbowl and looked like we were in a fishbowl. So it was really a combination of things where I'll say about out of 17 people, maybe 3 people had a decent experience, and the rest of them, it was being booted off. Zoom was a little bit more stable of a platform, but still we dealt with a lot of failure issues when it came to audio-visual quality. And we couldn't figure out for the life of us why Facebook Live had such good audio-visual quality and Zoom did not. So it was mainly just getting people signed on, getting them to stay on. And again, that AV quality is really important.
Right. Well, that's really important to learn. And, the other thing that I was thinking about is, since you're a gym owner, for those people who want to charge for a class, I would imagine you already have a shop or a store set up on your site. You probably already have a program that you use where people can pay, or that's where they purchase their membership, or maybe you do a class pass type of situation. But was that pretty easily transferable because you're already doing that in your gym?
Yep, we use Zen Planner, which is, one of the many different gym softwares. And it was pretty easy because we're still set up to take credit card payments and all of that. We're typically a class pass or a pay per class facility. We don't have memberships. So people pretty easily would just sign up as they would for a regular class and just paid with credit card.
Okay, I love that. So you were already designed to do kind of a per class kind of payment situation. And so that works out perfectly for you. It's interesting. We already got a question, and it's one of the things, Nicole, that you and I talked about. So I produce fitness videos, and I have one right here with me. So I produce fitness videos. So I used to go into a production studio, and I had to buy the rights to my fitness music, and it's a one and done. You buy the rights to the music, and that is for your specific production. You can't use that music again and again. And one of the key things that you and I talked about that I think instructors, it's good for everyone to know, is that it's one thing to stream a class, and it's another thing to film a class and then make the class available, because those are 2 different licensing rights, and we
Correct.
can get ourselves into a heap of trouble if we cross that boundary. So do you want to speak to that?
Sure. For some classes, like Zumba, if you're doing a Zumba class, they have their own licensing requirements. Zumba typically produces their own music. However, for other classes you may do, for the music, you have to buy the license for a live production. Now, a live stream can be a live production, but once you record it, it's a completely different legal issue, and you can actually get yourself into a lot of trouble for recording and then reposting the classes. And I would caution anybody who wants to do that right now, especially since the music industry is probably hurting, just like the rest of us are. You don't want to set yourself up for a potential lawsuit. Now, there's a couple of licenses out there. BMI is one that comes to mind. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and they all license you to play different artists. So you have to also make sure that the artists are on the list for the license that you hold. You can hold multiple licenses, though, but make sure that that's squared away you should be having it squared away before you do a live class, but also especially once you're doing one online.
Well, and that's excellent information. And I actually have a question just so that I can get some clarification. So, for instance, when I produce fitness videos, I had to buy royalty-free music. And like I said, it's a one and done. But if I hear you correctly, you're saying it may be different. I don't know if it's different for a gym owner. So like if I get on Zoom tomorrow and I teach a Zoom class to my community of followers, I can just stream music. I can use like the Yes music, and I can stream it, and I don't have to have royalty-free music. Is that what you're saying, or are you saying it's even different for that?
if you hold a license for a live performance. So even if you're a bar owner or a restaurant owner, if you're playing music in your bar or restaurant, you have to have a license for that music that you're even putting on. The exception to that is radio, but a lot of people don't use just regular radio anymore. So that's something that you want to have, even when you're in a gym teaching any sort of class, making sure that those artists are covered under that performance license.
Okay, perfect. So, but if an instructor were to get on tomorrow and they were to teach to their community, they could use some of the music that is available because they don't, as long as they don't own a bricks and mortar gym. Is that accurate?
It's actually, it applies to live classes on Facebook as well. So any sort of live performance, you have to make sure that you have a license. Now there is music types out there that are like sort of, what do they call it? Public domain or something of that nature where you don't need a license. But if you're going on Facebook Live, be very, very careful. A lot of the time Facebook will catch it and will mute the rest of your class. So if that's ever happened to anyone before, usually 30 seconds in, it has an algorithm that recognizes the song. It'll just mute the rest of your class because of the licensing violations.
Perfect. Thank you so much for lending a lot of clarification to that, because I know that's a huge question on everyone's mind. And someone else asked, Amanda's asking, how do you handle sending the Zoom codes to people who signed up and they paid through Zen Planner? I'm using MindBody and I'm curious how you coordinate the handling of this smoothly.
So this is a whole very, very good question, actually. This is a couple of our bloopers that we had where people didn't get links or, someone forgot to put somebody's class on Zoom. The procedure is for our facility now, after doing this for 6 weeks, we pull the class list from Zen Planner. And whoever is on that class list, we will set up the link in Zoom, which you can do with your account. It's pretty simple. And then you copy the invitation and you can send it either an email, or what we've been doing that's actually been a lot of fun is if your clients are your Facebook friends, you can actually create a Facebook group to send the link. And it's actually kind of fun because we've been using that for class chatter. And we also use that for tech support during the class. So we usually bring in 2 instructors, one who's teaching, one who's the roadie. And the roadie has to monitor the Facebook messages in case somebody has a technology failure. But it is, you have to develop a procedure. If you have a larger facility, you may want to put a point person on it, somebody whose job it is to screen the classes and then send out the links. Or the instructors do it themselves. With my facility, with the exception of a couple of them who still are nervous about scheduling Zoom classes. In that case, I will do it for them. Okay. We tell our clients, please register for the class an hour before it starts. So Zen Planner has a feature where we can close registration an hour before the start time, and that gives us ample time to get that link out. If somebody messages the instructor at the last minute to join the class and they want to send the link, that's great. They can join, but we don't guarantee that they'll get a link because if they don't sign up that hour before.
Okay, awesome. That was super comprehensive. Thank you for that. I feel like I'm learning so much today just by talking to you. So, you brought up a really good point that you and I also talked about. We talked about community, and you talked about class chatter. And I thought that was amazing because we talked about how when they take our group fitness classes, they love to show up early or they stay after. And, I always say that my group fitness classes are actually 2 hours because it's 30 minutes before to talk and 30 minutes after to talk. And that's where I build community, and that's where everybody makes friendships. And that's why, group fitness is what it is. So it sounds like class chatter is your version of kind of keeping your communities together when you're teaching online.
It definitely is. And it's actually been fun. For some of my classes, I will keep one ongoing Facebook group. And that way, if people want to drop into the class, they get the links. But it's really fun because I encourage clients, post your Fitbit summaries, post a sweaty selfie. It's been a really great place where we actually can carry on the conversation about class even hours after it ended.
Okay, awesome. That's very cool. I love that. And plus you get to then connect with this virtual community from all over, because we just had another question and she asks, have you gotten new clients because you've gone virtual? And I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Actually, I I asked my manager last week, I said, how many people are joining from how many different states? We had people from 10 different states joining our classes just last week, which we never would have been able to do had we not had an online option. We've also had a couple of stay-at-home moms that have young kids who can't get out to the gym because we don't have childcare at our facility. And some family members who then shared it with their friends. So yes, we've actually, it's kind of funny, we've gotten a whole new slew of clients that have come in because of going online.
That's super cool. And that brings me to something else that you and I discussed, and that is, now that you've built this new community and you're growing your reach and you're touching lives of people that you wouldn't have been able to do when you were live, which I think is absolutely amazing. What's your thoughts on continuing this process even when we're no longer sheltering in place?
We are 100% going to continue online options. Like I said, we have clients now from 10 other states joining our classes. That, and I said, I've invested way too much time and money and equipment and too much time tinkering with it to let this online option go. But in all honesty, it really is an opportunity to build your classes beyond your geographical region, which is honestly pretty cool. Once they're comfortable with our instructors, people still plan to join our classes.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, honestly, the reason why I produced fitness videos years ago was because I wanted to have a global reach. I wanted to do what I love to do, and I wanted to connect with everybody in their living room, right? But the beauty of this is that I didn't get to see the people who were working out with me, and I didn't get to have that live experience. I only got to get emails from them or them talking about their experiences. But what's so cool about this is that they're actually getting on with you, and it's in the moment. Right?
It's awesome. I mean, it really is awesome. What I look forward to most in my day are seeing my participants I usually teach in the mornings, to participants, to instructors. That is the bright spot of our day. That's what group fitness is. It's connecting with people. A lot of the time, that's their reason for getting up and coming out in the morning. And it really gives us this sense of feeling somewhat normal when we can still see our people. So yeah, and being able to connect with people from Alaska. We actually had somebody join from Alaska, got up at 5 a.m. to attend a 9 o'clock class. But that's been a really great experience as well. It really is that community, having them there with you live, knowing that they're laughing with you, they're working out with you, and being able to still talk with them instead of just get feedback from a video is kind of a great, beautiful thing about the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a question for you, because we made this as one of our talking points, and I think that this is a huge one, because there's people like me that are like technology. So what do you do for those non-techie people who need like a crew to come in and film for them because they're so afraid of technology?
Once you get the hang of it, it really isn't so bad. But if you have people that can help you, that's even better. I am not a technologically savvy person. I'm kind of, my age, I'm 37. I'm sort of on the border between really techie and, getting up there. So I actually connected with a friend of mine from high school who's an audiovisual engineer. And I can't even tell you how many times he had to talk me through how to connect the soundboard to the computer, how to, and how to set up the Zoom settings so they're appropriate for a live broadcast. Really, it's just about putting in the time. If you give yourself maybe 2-3 weeks of just having the patience to tinker with it, once you get the hang of it, it's really not that bad.
Okay, awesome. That's good to hear. See, I already feel less stressed technologically. So somebody asked, what about pricing? And I know that for you, you've already got your gym, so you probably, maybe you maintain your pricing structure, and you might kind of have a good idea of what the competition is doing out there. And it might differ because you do have your bricks and mortar establishment. But what do you suggest on pricing?
We kept our prices the same, except what we did do, because a lot of our clients were furloughed or lost their jobs, we discounted the classes. We normally, and don't laugh, people who are in big cities, we live in a rural area, we only charge $6 a class. What I've seen out there is some people are doing classes for free. Some people are charging $5. It seems to be under $10 is the going rate right now. For classes. If people buy a 10 class pack for our virtual program, it's $50, so basically $5 a class. As far as pricing goes, when we resume operations in person, we're planning to keep the virtual classes priced at that $50 for 10 and go back to our regular pricing structure once we return. But to answer your question, Angie, it's probably under $10, and there are a lot of people doing free classes, though I still believe that you need to charge because that brings value to what you're doing, and people, including your participants, perceive the value. I think that it's a psychological thing, so I would definitely recommend charging for your classes if you are going to do it.
Yeah, I agree too. I think that we place value on things that we pay for. That's just kind of the economic reality of everything that we do. And so many times we're so used to giving from right here, but really we prioritize our budget, no matter how big or small it is, we prioritize it by what means the most, right? So I love that. And I love that your pricing structure is reasonable, but yet you're placing value on your time, your instructor's time, and what you offer your community. And I do feel like the people who are asking us questions have gotten inside both of our heads. It's like they heard our conversation, because the next question is what equipment is needed. And you and I talked about this, how to me, equipment is very much like when I did fitness videos, I had a modifier, and the modifier wouldn't use any equipment, just to show that what I do, you can do without any equipment. Or when you go to the gym and you run out of resistance bands, and so all of a sudden, whatever you were going to do with resistance bands is like, chuck that, I can't use resistance bands. So what do you do about equipment and space? See, because that was the other thing with videos, is you have to account for the fact that people are working out in their living room. So if you're doing something simple like a shuffle, some people's living rooms aren't big enough to do a shuffle across the floor.
So is the question specifically about equipment that you need to run the online class for the AV quality, or is the question about equipment as in the gym equipment that they would need to participate in the class?
You know what? That's an excellent question. Let's stick with the equipment that they would need to participate in a class, because I think that so many times home exercisers, that's their thing, is like, well, I can't take a boxing class because I don't have anything to punch, or whatever it might be.
So you do want to pay attention to the formats. We did have an issue. Our biggest class was indoor cycling, 100% our most popular class until we got to this. So the way we adapted our online cycling class was I trained my instructors to coach people outdoor running, outdoor bike, elliptical, treadmill, or indoor bike all at the same time, based on heart rate zones and rate of perceived exertion, because not everybody has a heart rate monitor. So you have to be really creative. Even so, you would think that a lot of people were using treadmills as coat racks, but there weren't as many people as you might think. So that format hasn't actually proven to be super popular. Now, classes that require zero equipment, so body weight classes. Strong by Zumba is one we offer. Zumba, we offer another class called Burlesque Burn, where all you need is a chair. It's a Pilates class that's all burlesque themed dancing.
Very cool.
Pilates, mat Pilates, any of those classes that require zero equipment have done very well. Now, the other class that surprisingly has done well are our interval weight classes, where you usually need equipment. However, I came up with a couple of solutions for people who do not have equipment. So for my class, my programming, I pay special attention to trying to prioritize body weight exercise and exercise that doesn't need massive amounts of equipment. But in case they do need weights or resistance, a couple of tips for you guys. Backpacks filled with books. That's a great way to put resistance for your legs. You can do upright rows with a backpack. Milk jugs filled with sand if you need something heavy, or rocks, or even water. Water bottles, same thing. So things like that are all household items that we've had a lot of success with our clients using for our weight classes. What I'll typically do is on our class chatter is I'll say, okay, guys, what equipment do you have at home? And I will get some feedback from the clients and get some sort of common ground. And I'll have a list of equipment that they need if they have weights, and a list of equipment that they need if they don't have weights.
Okay, I love that. I love your ingenuity. I love that you are thinking outside of the box, because that is what we are as group fitness people. We have to be resourceful. We have to think in the moment. We do run out of equipment when we're live, and we again, we have to think about space. Some people live in apartments. Some people live in very small spaces. Some people live in large spaces, but maybe with the whole family home, they don't have as much room to move around. So you've taken all of those things into consideration and not made any assumptions about what people have available. And that's super cool, because that speaks to people when they feel like you understand that this isn't easy, but they really want to make this happen. So the other question is, the other side of it is equipment as far as AV. So let's go back to that on equipment that you needed to bring your bricks and mortar to life virtually.
So Zoom works much better on a laptop than it does on a phone or an iPad. The reason for that is because the phones and iPads are almost pre-programmed to filter out background noise. It basically will try to get your voice and it'll try to filter out the music. But remember, the music is a really important part of our classes. So laptops are better. I did have a video tutorial that I will be happy to share if anybody wants on how to set it up. But there are specific settings in Zoom that you want to avoid. For instance, you want to enable your clients to use original sound. You want to make sure that it's not auto adjusting the volume. And then you'd have to do it right from the app. And I'm trying to think of some of the other specific settings off the top of my head. But things like that, you want to really pay special attention to so that it doesn't filter out your music. So if you have a laptop, I would recommend, and this is equipment that's recommended, not necessarily that you have to do it, but this is what we have found has worked best. A webcam that's not the one that comes with your computer. A higher definition webcam is much better. I got one off of eBay for like $30. Works great. At least I hope it does, but you guys can see me now with it. So the other thing, if you have a sound system at your gym or facility, we have a soundboard. Soundboard, I guess they run about $100 or so. You may be able to get one cheaper, but running the sound through the soundboard and running that soundboard directly into your USB port on your computer has given us the very best quality from what we can tell. Now, I have a couple of instructors that are very nervous about running the soundboard into the laptop and then selecting the right settings. So for those instructors, I purchased a condenser mic, which if you have like kids that make YouTube videos, that's actually how I learned about the condenser mic, because my son is obsessed with YouTube. They run you anywhere from about $20 to $50, and you can plug those directly into your USB port, and that does a better job at capturing the sound. The cameras are really good at capturing the picture. I recommend that you also use a headset. If you don't have one, our headset feeds directly into our soundboard, so it goes right into the laptop, but it also could be picked up by the condenser mic. So you can buy a portable headset on Amazon, at least you could about a month ago, for about $20 or $25. You just plug it right in and it's wireless. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I have a nice portable mic that I got off Amazon that was relatively inexpensive. But you're right, it could be that some of this equipment right now is really who knows how available it is with everything going on. So, but yeah, if you posted that video, that would probably be very helpful for a lot of people. It sounds like you really, thank goodness for your friend. It helps to know friends in the right places.
Yeah, it sure does. I told him I owe him a whole lot of personal training when this is over for all of the hours he spent helping me.
See, that's the good thing. We're really good at bartering services, aren't we? We've got some services we can barter. So, that works too. So as far as, let's go back to one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning when you said everything that could go wrong did. And you mentioned to me that you had some funny stories. And one of the funny stories that I had mentioned in my video or in our webinar last week was, peeing when you still have the mic on. And I would imagine that when you're teaching online, I can only imagine some of the stuff that you guys went through. And go ahead, give it to us. Tell us some of the things that you went through.
So we've had a couple of funny things happen. We have definitely had the experience of an instructor peeing in the bathroom with her headset on and everybody on Zoom hearing. We had one instructor kick another one out of her class and the whole class crashed because when you log into your account on Zoom, the instructor has to wait till the prior class is done. But the instructor that was trying to log on hit end meeting. The whole class just crashed. They had a nightmare getting people back in. Another one that was funny was my mother wanted to join my Zumba class from Florida, and she couldn't figure out how Zoom worked. So she kept FaceTiming everybody in the Facebook message group instead in the middle of the class. People have accidentally unmuted themselves, and then we heard them talking on the phone, and we realized they weren't actually doing the class. We had somebody, actually, this is a really funny story. It might not be related to Zoom, but we had a client who had an Apple Watch on, and she was using like a wrist support strap. It accidentally called 911 while we were doing the class. And of course, when the dispatch picked up, she's going, breathing. Luckily, this particular client was an ambulance driver, so she knew the person calling, but it was still a pretty funny story. She said, I called 911 and they thought I died in your class for real.
Oh, that's hilarious.
People losing links and not being able to get back in. Somebody showed up to class in a bathing suit. That was pretty funny. I guess they decided they weren't going to get dressed for class because they thought nobody could see them. We all saw them dancing in a bathing suit. So there's just little things that happen that are funny. We really enjoy them because that adds flavor to our classes when we get these funny stories.
That's awesome. Those are great stories, actually. Those are amazing. So, kicking the person out of class, we've probably all been teaching live before where we've had fantasies of doing that. The person who won't stop talking or answers their cell phone in the middle of class. Oops, I didn't mean to kick you out. So that's awesome. You mentioned that not muting, and a friend of mine said that when she teaches on Zoom, she always mutes the participants because of some of those things that you mentioned. Do you mute your participants?
Yes, what we found was we'll get an echo if somebody else is, I'll actually hear myself, but it limits the sound quality for everybody. So what I'll tell my group is, as much as I love hearing you and seeing your beautiful faces, we have to mute for everybody's benefit. So I do mute them, and we have to shut down their video most of the time because if people's video is on, it may slow the connection and then reduce the quality. Now, if you have a small group, you can keep the video feed on. It really also depends on their bandwidth and your bandwidth, which brings me to another AV point. If you can connect your laptop directly to your router and not rely on the Wi-Fi, your quality will be 10 million times better.
Okay, awesome. I love all your tips. And that's interesting because when you mentioned seeing the participant in the bathing suit, I wondered that same thing, how you could see your participants, because I know that it does kind of pull away. So it sounds like if it's a small class, it's okay. But if it's a big class, you're not generally, you're not generally going to see everybody. A, because it's going to pull away from the quality, but B, because if there's 100 people on, you're not going to be able to see 100 people at the same time anyway. Correct. And that's actually one of our questions is somebody from Italy here said, is there an option to see attendees in case they want to be seen in a way you can offer cues? And I think that kind of speaks to, again, I'm not really sure if they want to be seen. I think this person is saying, yeah, I mean, we could offer attendees the opportunity to be seen if it's a small class, but maybe I'll let you speak to that.
So we also do personal training via Zoom. And for that, you would 100% need to watch your client and cue them. So for that, we would leave their sound and their video on. I would say if you have a group of 4 people or less, it works pretty well. So if you have a small group training situation, you can definitely do that. For, as you said, a class of 100 people, or even really a class 5 or more, for the AV quality, you might want to shut down the video and their sound. But for a small group, it works pretty well.
Yeah, that sounds like it. That sounds like a perfect. And of course, for personal training, for small group training, absolutely. But for a group fitness class where you need to lead the masses and you want to make sure that there's no interruption of sound or video, that makes sense that you would turn all that off. So, we're kind of coming to the end of our time. And I was curious if you have any kind of last minute thoughts or any do's or don'ts or just glaring things that you would say to the AFAA audience about doing all of this online.
I would just say if you're nervous about it, give it a chance. You'd be surprised at how you will get the hang of it. So don't be intimidated by the technology. Don't be intimidated about, the things, oh, what if I mess up and everybody sees? It's really absolutely fine. After a while, it's very natural. At first, it feels awkward teaching to a computer screen, but after a while, your people are there. I would also just recommend you maintain those connections. Have everybody sign in 15 minutes before class and stay 15 minutes after so you can talk to them. It's really important that they feel that sense of connection. Keep Facebook chatter, class chatter groups open. Have your clients constantly give you feedback. This is a whole new way of providing group fitness to people. But I do think that as we move along, even past the crisis, a lot of facilities that are going to survive are going to have a hybrid program where you're going to stay online and in person at the same time.
I couldn't agree more. I think that this shelter in place has taught us all kind of where our priorities are, and we're all going to have to shift and navigate a little bit differently. And I agree. It is weird at first because just from filming fitness videos, from doing Angie's tips, talking to dead space is talking to dead space. And we're so used to interaction of an audience. And so you do have to get used to that. You have to get used to being your own entertainer. But, the beauty is that you've got that chat going. So you've got a little bit of interaction going there. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I'm so glad that you joined us here today, Nicole. Your expertise was invaluable. I really appreciate it. It was great for me to meet you and for the AFAA audience to meet you. So I'm Angie Miller. This is Nicole Golden, and we are so appreciative that you joined us for our AFAA Friday Facebook Live.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.